Wow, San Francisco.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Inkkery and another deck profile. Today is an exciting day as this is our first set 9 deck list, as every single card in this deck is playable post-rotation. But that doesn't make it any less powerful, and it's extremely fun to play. We're using cards like Tigger in the Crow's Nest, Robin Hood Sharpshooter, Lilo causing an uproar, and Maui Half Shark to get incredible action synergy to have hugely powerful turns. But before we get started, a quick reminder to like the video if you enjoy, and subscribe to the Inkkery channel for more Fabled deck videos and so much more. Now, let's get into the core idea behind this deck. As I mentioned, we're looking to play lots of actions in this deck so we can cheat out a Lilo for free, or quest for 4 or 5 with a Tigger, or even cycle actions with Maui Half Shark for huge bursts of lore and card draw. So it's important to have plenty of action options to either draw us cards or give us some lore. And for that reason we have Thievery, Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom, Hypnotic Strength, Show Me More, Finders Keepers, This Is My Family, and A Pirate's Life, giving us a total of 22 actions. At the time of recording, Fabled reveals haven't yet finished, so the likes of Brawl, Friends on the Other Side, and Teeth and Ambitions could find their way into the list. But for now, I'm working with what we know and can change the deck later if needs be. So with over a third of the deck being actions, it gives a Robin Hood Sharpshooter quest a really strong range of 75 to 84% likelihood of drawing into an action, and us being able to play it for free. But this of course depends on mulligans and other changing factors, but either way a very good chance. Thievery gives us 1 lore and the opponent loses 1 lore. Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom instantly gives us 2 lore. Hypnotic Strength allows us to give Challenger +2 to a character and it draws a card. Show Me More draws 3 cards for both us and the opponent. Finders Keepers draws 3 cards, but it's more of a Robin Hood target in this deck than an action we're likely to play for 5 ink. But I'll get into that later. This Is My Family, which gains a lore and draws a card, and Pirate's Life is the ultimate action for Maui Half Shark and Robin Hood. But again, we'll talk about this card in a little bit more detail later in the video. One action I've not included that could be interesting to try out is Break Free, which can give a character of ours rush and +1 strength. So those are the actions. Now let's get into the 1 and 2 cost characters and talk about what we're looking to do in the early game. First of all, we have 4 copies of Diablo and 4 copies of Royal Guard. From my playtesting, Royal Guard has been incredible as we have so much card draw in the deck to give them a Challenger +1 for each card drawn. One game I managed to play 2 Show Me Mores in 1 turn, plus Hypnotic Strength, plus the draw for turn, which gave Royal Guard Challenger +10, which is way more than I needed at the time, but it traded into a Rhino, which is such a strong board swing. And of course that turn allowed me to play a Lilo for free, having played 3 actions. Diablo can also buff up Royal Guard by challenging something, being banished and drawing an extra card. But Diablo's also great just to trickle out some lore, as many opponents ignore Diablo's presence, and may do so even more after rotation, with the likes of Crab and Fox being rotated out. And not a lot of people will expect a Hypnotic Strength on a Diablo. As for the 2 drops, we only have 6 in the deck, which could definitely be considered too low. I really wanted to get as many actions in the deck as possible, but if you wanted to, you could definitely consider lowering some actions like for example Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom, and boosting the counts of the 1 and 2 cost characters, which would make the early turns much more consistent. However, if you mulligan aggressively for cheaper characters, it makes drawing into those actions really reliable later in the game when we need them. Milo Thatch is a card a lot of people wouldn't have seen before. I definitely hadn't before making this deck, but he really works well in it and can have some really efficient trade-ups, as whenever an action is played, we can give a character +2 strength, which includes Milo. My favourite use though would of course be either Diablo or Royal Guard. As if for example we play a Hypnotic Strength, we can give Diablo Challenger +2, draw a card, then Milo can give the Diablo another 2 strength for the action being played. And now Diablo can swing for 4 damage on something and draw a card for being banished. The other 2 drop is Queen of Hearts, which is a card I've used lots before and absolutely love. She's difficult to remove from the board and gets +3 strength when damaged. She's a great singer for This Is My Family, and is also a brilliant target for Milo or Hypnotic Strength to buff up for big challenges that she usually sticks around after to go again for another turn. Onto the White Rose now, which we have 3 copies of in the deck. White Rose gives us a lore when played, is a decent body for some board presence, and can really help contribute to singing a pirate's life later in the game. There's only 3 copies of Rose, mostly because it's not the preferred turn free option, but that's only because Tigger is such an incredible card for this deck and a much better option than White Rose. I honestly couldn't believe just how good Tigger is when I started testing out this list, and is a card that in my opinion is slept on massively. If you don't know Tigger, he's a free cost, inkable 0/4 evasive character that quests for 1, but whenever we play an action, he gains +1 strength and +1 lore that turn. Very often with this deck, turn 5 is reserved for actions, usually a show me more followed by chaining 2 more actions and being able to play Lilo for free. So the best line of play is to get the 3 actions out on turn 5, one of which must be Thievery, then quest for 4 with Tigger, then play Lilo for free and either ready the Tigger with Lilo's ability, or one of your other characters like a Robin Hood or a Genie that you probably played on turn 4, so turn 5 can end up getting us a massive swing of lore, plus being able to contest the board further with a Lilo. Tigger of course can also be used to challenge, but I find this much less beneficial and only really useful in niche circumstances like when facing heavily evasive opposing decks. So that's Tigger. Now onto the 4 cost characters. We have Genie, Ratigan and Robin Hood. Now in an ideal world we would definitely have 4 copies of Robin Hood in the deck. However, the uninkable count is already a little high and are mostly actions, so are really difficult to warrant cutting. I also feel like we need Genie in the deck, as sometimes the action-based lines of play simply don't materialise, and you're forced into going down more traditional lines of play with the likes of Genie into Elsa, into a Half Shark, but that's a really important spine to be able to fall back on when things aren't going our way in a match, so we can't cut Genie or Elsa either. So I think 2 copies of Robin Hood feels right for now. If you don't know this card, he's honestly so much fun when you get to use his ability, which is never guaranteed as opponents do heavily target Robin Hood after you play him, simply because his ability can be so strong. Whenever he quests, we look at the top 4 cards of the deck, reveal and play an action with 6 cost or less for free, then put the other cards into the discard. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, we have a really good chance of finding actions in those 4 cards. A Pirate's Life and Finders Keepers being the best options of course. This then contributes to Lilo's requirement of 3 actions being met. But also a side note that the other 3 cards that Robin Hood draws that then go to the discard can later be retrieved by a Maui Half Shark if they were also actions, which is a fantastic bit of hidden synergy. If you do manage to get Robin Hood's ability off, play a further 2 actions and get a Lilo down for free, readying the Robin Hood and leaving him upright for the next turn to repeat can be incredibly strong and often game winning. Then onto the other 4 cost characters. There's 2 copies of Ratigan, Nefarious Criminal. Ratigan is an inkable option for that 4 ink spot and does synergize really well with the deck, but simply isn't as good an option as Genie, Robin Hood or even a Tigger who costs less. So he's probably one of the weaker cards in the deck and can be swapped out accordingly. However, like I said, he does synergize well, as whenever he's exerted and we play an action, we gain a lore. So a situation could definitely arise where we use a Ratigan on what I call an action turn to get a Lilo out for free, and he would gain us 3 or 4 lore quite nicely. So maybe do give him a go if you're looking at testing this list out. Okay, we've talked about Lilo a bit already, so I'm sure you get the idea behind this card. Lilo is a 5 cost inkable that quests for 2, and like I've said, she can be played for free when we play 3 actions in a single turn, and has the extra ability of readying a character when she's played, so really is an incredible card. Elsa is our other 5 cost character, as like I mentioned, the action lines of play don't always work, so being able to fall back on this card is great. She's also really good at being able to sing a Pirate's Life with a 1-drop, so helps in that regard too. Another thing is that Elsa is probably one of the best cards to hit with Milo Thatcher's Strength boost or a Hypnotic Strength, as she would then have 4 strength and banish those opposing Genie Wish fulfills very easily. Now, last but certainly not least is Maui Half Shark. Unfortunately, we have no way in the deck currently of being able to give Maui Rush, but even without that, Maui's fantastic, as he's able to recruit actions back from the discard so we can replay them and gain a lore with each action played. One incredible turn I had when testing out the deck was playing a Pirate's Life for 6 ink, challenging with Maui, getting the Pirate's Life back, singing it with Elsa and Diablo, then inking for turn and playing Thievery, resulting in me going from 9 lore all the way to 17 in a single turn. And my opponent also lost 5 lore in the process, which is just an incredible swing. Unfortunately, I didn't have a Lilo in hand at the time to play for free, but it didn't really matter as that lore swing alone won me the game. So before I wrap things up for this one, I do want to touch upon some of the counts of the cards in the deck. You would have noticed there's lots of free-offs, which is definitely not optimum for consistent gameplay. However, with the sheer amount of actions in the deck which is necessary for it to work properly, it's difficult getting the cards we want at 4 copies from 3 to 4. Maui, Elsa, Robin Hood and Milo Thatch are all examples of cards I would increase to 4 copies if I could find the room. And like I mentioned, cards like Ratigan and maybe Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom you could easily consider lowering. So which cards to increase to 4 would be down to personal preference, and I encourage those looking to play the deck to experiment, and please let me know what you end up settling on down in the comments. Usually now I demonstrate some mulligans, however I want to keep this one nice and short, and instead will say if you'd like to see some gameplay of the deck, hit the like button and let me know in the comments, as I'd be more than happy to play some games with this one on Pixelborn, as it's probably the most fun I've had playing a deck I've made in ages. I'm also recording this video right in the middle of the Fabled card reveal season, so who knows, this deck might change considerably if the likes of Friends on the Other Side gets a reprint, or maybe I can figure out a way to get the new Powerline cards in the list. So to stay up to date on the evolution of the deck, I've left a Dreamborn link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. I hope you enjoyed today's deck profile, as it really is so much fun to use. If you've made it here to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I'm on a mission to get the Inkkery channel to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you'd like to subscribe, that'd be awesome. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.